Walking to school, Yuna confessed to her friend, Yubo, that she believed she had a problem and wanted his input. She asked if she was just a dull girl, since she didn't look like the other girls did. She hoped that maybe she could try to be a bit more fashionable to make herself prettier. Yubo, however, seemed to have a distraught look as he yelled out no in his head over and over. Blushing with embarrassment, she tried to say that she didn't look beautiful or sexy, but being so shy hindered her from saying it clearly. Yubo, staring down at Yuna, thought to himself that Yuna's looks were anything but plain. He noted in his mind that even though Yuna was wearing simple clothes, she still looked gorgeous, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. Yubo thinks that Yuna is the perfect example of a childhood friend, coming into his home every morning to wake him with a gentle smile. Yuna would cook breakfast for him, walking to school and back with him, and just giving Yubo the general care he needed. Whenever she cooked, it was amazing, often bringing him to tears. He pondered if he deserved this or what he'd done in a past life to earn this. Still thinking this as they walked to school, he mentally confessed to himself that he loved Yuna, but he's too embarrassed to tell her directly how she makes him feel with all her efforts. He felt he owed Yuna and wished to return all the care and concern she gave him, but for some reason, he worried if he explained everything to her, she'd be creeped out. As he continued to think of all the beauty Yuna has, he noticed that her ears began turning red for some reason. As he noticed it, Yuna called out to him, snapping his attention away from his own thoughts. Clutching at Yubo's sleeve and tearing up with a full blush, Yuna shakily informs Yubo that he wasn't thinking, but he's been actually speaking out loud this whole time, stunning Yubo. As Yuna got redder and redder, the gears in Yubo's head began to turn. After being silent for a moment, he eventually realized that he should say something, awkwardly beginning to speak. With the elegance of a rock, Yubo asked out Yuna, who agreed immediately despite hiding her face, which was going red all over. Opening the door, Yuna was pleasantly surprised to see that Yubo was already awake and getting changed. Happy to see each other, they both smiled softly and greeted each other. Skipping down the stairs, Yuna happily called back to Yubo to come down and grab his breakfast. Seeing her go, Yubo could only sigh, saying that Yuna is just such a cutie. He recalled that they only had been going out since yesterday, but he felt he had an issue. She accepted his feelings with glee, but he felt he confessed in a messy, nervous way, which he deemed to not be worthy of Yuna since she deserved the best. He cursed himself, thinking that he made the worst confession that ever existed. He hadn't clearly explained his true feelings in a way that reached Yuna's heart. He felt he needed to confess again, with his own words rather than a cliché sentence. Looking lovingly at Yubo, Yuna explained that she put a bit more effort than usual into breakfast, and she wanted to hear his opinion on it. Stunned by how cute Yuna looked, he could barely get out a delicious, while his eyes never left hers. He almost robotically said that it was more delicious than usual, while his mind raced, going over how attracted to Yuna he was, how she makes him feel so special, but he still can't give her the confession that he knows she deserves. Sighing and beating himself up, he thinks he's a pathetic man. Yuna, glad to hear that he liked her food, said as much before standing up and leaving the room. Once she was out of the room, Yuna melted to the floor as she mentally complained to Yubo for saying his thoughts out loud again. Hearing him being so loving towards her and so honest, it turned her heart, her head, and her legs into jelly. Squatting in the hallway, Yuna spoke to herself, jealous of Yubo's honesty, wishing she too could say what her heart wanted her to say. Waking up, Yuna, remembering that Yubo was now her lover, pumps herself up for another day with him. As she goes to leave, she wishes her grandma farewell. Her grandma comments on how hard she worked for Yubo, but Yuna says that she does it because she likes doing it for him. Then we get to see Yuna's daily routine. She wakes Yubo first, but has to emotionally prepare for it. The reason she has to prepare is because Yubo's thoughts have been slipping out of him when he wakes. This was one of the rare days, though, that she could survive the onslaught of compliments Yubo had for her. Unknown to everyone outside of her family, Yuna can actually read minds, seeming to be a family blessing or curse. However, there is a catch. She can only do it at close range, almost touching distance. Yuna hypothesizes that Yubo's thoughts must have been strong as of late, because she can hear every single one of them as clear as crystal. As they sat at the table, Yuna heard him compliment her, treasure her, and say how thankful he was that she entered his life. Whenever she is emotionally overwhelmed by his thoughts, she tells him a simple lie, but Yubo falls for it every time. She tells him that he's speaking out loud, so as to hide her ability but still respond to his emotions. Yuna comments that Yubo isn't very expressive. However, whenever she tells him that he's been speaking out loud, he becomes very easy to read. The face he makes when he's been caught speaking out loud is adorable to Yuna. Both blushing at the table, Yuna wished that Yubo could read her thoughts like she can, while the pair think simultaneously that they both love each other. Yuna, while talking to her friend Haru, told her that Yubo finally confessed to her, causing Haru to explode with excitement. Yuna, being the shy girl she is, told Haru that she's being a bit too loud. Haru attempts to hold it in, but her joy continues to erupt, shouting that it's about time that Yubo made a move. Haru wrapped her arm around Yuna and told her that she should celebrate with her. She was really worried that Yubo would never make a move, so this development was wonderful to hear. Yuna blushed and thanked Haru for being such a good friend before Haru began to ask Yuna a question. Haru asked if Yuna returned Yubo's confession with an expression of her own feelings towards him. Getting redder, Yuna squeaked out that she hasn't yet, as the moment swept her up and left her tongue-tied. Both froze as Haru attempted to process what Yuna had just said, while Yuna went to another level of red as she knew what was coming. Haru, being as blunt as ever, asked her why she didn't confess back. They love each other equally. Haru ended up saying that she was disappointed by Yuna. Yuna, meanwhile, had reached her peak redness and said that Haru is completely right, but she just couldn't muster the courage to say something. Turning to face Yuna in a more playful mood, Haru claimed that Yuna wasn't just shy, but a true maiden in love. Haru questions what Yuna is going to do about her not confessing to Yubo. She adds that boys like Yubo are too dense to understand the subtle signs of love that girls give. Yuna, yelling for once, said that she always shows him her love 24/7, but Haru corrects her, saying that she did that already before the confession, so it's normal for him, and she has to say it too for clarity's sake. Yuna tries to fight it, but Haru continues, adding that it's not fair for her to not say it when Yubo worked up his courage to confess to her. Yuna, becoming more of an emotional mess, said that she'd been working on saying it before, but now that she's his girlfriend, it's a different kind of pressure that she has to prepare herself for. Seeing Yuna getting more and more flustered, Haru sighs, realizing that there's just some things that can't be forced. She told Yuna that as long as the love is there, they'll be okay. Yuna, calming down, reluctantly agrees. Yuna, doing her usual routine of cooking breakfast for Yubo, tells him that it will take some time until it's ready. She was in a great mood with a bright smile on her face going from ear to ear. Watching her cook, Yubo thought that it's been 2 weeks since his confession, but they haven't progressed their relationship further past from where they were before. For a split second, he questioned if it was all okay, but quickly stopped that thought. He questioned if it's weird for wanting to do normal romantic couple things. As Yuna sat, saying thanks for the meal, Yubo decided that now was the moment to do something. His plan was simple, mention it while doing a cleaning task. He goes to clean the dishes, but Yuna beats him to it. He then tried to do the laundry and clean the floor, but Yuna was on top of all the chores. He feels defeat as he realizes that Yuna is not only a great childhood friend and girlfriend, but she's prime wife material also. As Yubo moped, Yuna internally apologized, hearing all his despair and wants. As she cleaned the dishes, she recalled what Haru had said. She told her not to overthink things, because if she keeps dragging out how things are, Yubo might see the relationship going nowhere and ending things. Yubo, still trying to salvage the situation, asked if she's tired and if she wanted, but Yuna finished the sentence, saying a shoulder massage in a questioning tone. Turning in glee, Yuna excitedly accepts Yubo's offer to massage her. Sitting by the dining table, Yuna relaxed, enjoying every moment of it, while Yubo towered over her, trying to find the knots in her shoulders. Looking down at her, he thought to himself that this moment made him feel like they were a married couple. A few moments after, Yubo noticed that Yuna's ears had turned red once again. While bathing, Yuna realized that she really wanted to go on a date with Yubo in spite of all her nerves. Yuna had noticed how over the 3 weeks they had been dating, Yubo had been giving 110%, which makes her so happy, but she wants things to be lewder. She wants the lewdest things possible, such as interlocking their fingers while holding hands. She had been telling herself that as long as she had him, it's okay, but it's not calming her as well as it once was. Beginning to plan for a date she hasn't even asked for yet, she contemplates outfits and decides to try her best. However, She has no idea what a trendy and cute outfit looks like. Yuna starts to daydream scenarios, thinking about how she would respond if Yubo drowned her in compliments, which caused her to lose control and slip in the bath, almost actually drowning. Surviving her own thoughts, she starts the efforts of asking Yubo out on a date. Talking to herself, she questions if it's really okay to ask out Yubo like this, preparing to send him a text. Taking a deep breath, she tells herself that a girl must be brave and prepares to send her message. Shutting her eyes, she leant forward and hit the send button. Sitting back after, her heart was racing, almost pounding out of her chest, but she was proud of it. A split second later though, a scream from the other room startled Yuna, causing her to scream herself. It turned out to be Yubo, and it wasn't coming from the other room, but the next house. He was so excited for the text that his thoughts could reach further than usual. As she realized who it was, she attempts to calm herself down as her heart was now racing for a different reason. Despite his head and heart now screaming for Yuna, Yubo texted a very calm reply of, "Yeah." Hearing how excited Yubo was, Yuna steeled herself to do the best she can for him. Dressed up as pretty as can be, Yuna gleefully thought about how today's the day she has a romance-filled date with Yubo. She got Haru to help her and she sorted out everything for Yuna. She did her best to look beautiful for Yubo by going to a beauty salon for the first time in her life and pleading with the stylist to do her best to make her as cute as can be. Waiting near the date location, she hopes beyond hope that Yubo will compliment her, or at least call her cute or something similar. Nervously, she continues to wait, thinking only of him. Awkwardly smiling to herself, she spoke out loud as if someone could hear her wishes. That wish being that if Yubo were to compliment her, she would be consumed by happiness. Arriving about 40 minutes early, she slowly trudged forward until she started to hear something call out to her. It was a faint, familiar voice, causing Yuna to slowly get closer to the meeting point, checking to see if it was Yubo already waiting for her there. And it was. Yubo stood there in a sharp suit with slicked back hair. He looked stern while he waited for Yuna to arrive. Yuna, drooling over his appearance, stood around the corner, too excited to move and not wanting to ruin the view. After 30 minutes or so of panting and gawking at Yubo, she was snapped out of it by her phone's alarm, alerting her to the fact that she's almost late to the date that she's 20 feet away from. Running that short distance, she shyly apologized to Yubo for arriving late, while her full beauty was shining in the afternoon sun. Yubo didn't stand a chance, and was vaporized on the spot from seeing the pure beauty that was his girlfriend, Yuna. As his brain was melting from the sight he saw, he still managed to get out a weak lie that he had only just arrived while he was still enamored by the vision that was his Yuna. Regaining his composure, Yubo invited Yuna to start their date. Yuna gleefully thought that she finally got what she wanted, a date with Yubo. The pair moved along the street, Yubo being a gentleman the whole way. It was not lost on Yuna, who felt like she might faint because she was so happy while her face was beet red. However, all that stopped when Yuna realized that even though she was holding Yubo's hand, his thoughts eluded her. She briefly questioned why, but then discovered something worse. She had depended on her powers so much that, now that it's gone, she feels isolated and alone, nervous and scared. As she was stuck in thought, self-doubt creeping in, Yubo called her name, asking if she wanted to stop at a cafe for now, even though it's still early on their date. As they sat with their drinks, Yuna began to apologize, saying that Yubo must have planned so much for her and now she's gone and ruined it. Yubo admits that he did plan a lot, but that's not the important part of this date. As her boyfriend, his goal was to ensure Yuna had a good time and makes as many great memories as possible, and to enjoy those moments with her too. But despite those memories being important, that's not number one on the list. What is number one on the list is Yuna. Everything else could turn to dust, but as long as he has her, he'll be satisfied. Seeing her smile is his favorite thing and much more important than everything else on their date. But for a while already on this date, she hasn't seemed happy or smiled at all. As he continued to be compassionate towards his lovely girlfriend, he asked her to trust him and that her burdens can be his, her concerns can also be his. All she has to do is share. As he finished speaking, Yuna broke into tears, saying that she's actually the worst girlfriend, confusing Yubo. Offering her his handkerchief, Yuna began to explain what had been happening all this time, the reading of his mind, how sexy he looked to her earlier, and now she can't hear any of his thoughts, causing her to feel uneasy and panicked, scaring her. Hearing it all, Yubo was confused and had questions. After clarifying more, Yubo finally had a grasp on the situation. He apologized, saying that he's really a useless man. Not only had Yuna been relying on reading his mind, but Yubo unknowingly had also been relying on it. Now, at the moment where he needs to speak the most, he finds himself tongue-tied. Covering his face to hide his embarrassment, he goes for it, saying what he normally would only think in his mind. The real reason she couldn't hear him anymore was because his mind went blank, overwhelmed by her beauty. He stumbled over his words a bit, but decided to try one last time. He told her the simple and perfect truth. He loves her. He has always loved her. He always will love her. From now until they are grey and old. No matter what will happen in the future, he will be there, through thick and thin. The words struck like a harpoon, piercing straight through Yuna's heart, shattering any doubts that lingered in the shadows. Hiding her face so as not to let her blush show, she returned the sentiments, admitting that she's never been this happy before in her life. She's so happy, in fact, that she has gotten completely embarrassed from it and gone red. She explains that she needs to continue to hide her face, while Yubo chimes in, barely able to speak, adding that he's in the same boat as her. In a booth nearby, Haru sits there, slack-jawed. She ended up putting down her coffee, mentioning that something about this cafe is making everything too sweet.